It's a real fake news update, not brought to you by Pfizer. We're looking at the Netanyahu and Trump situation. He came yet again to the U.S. to meet with his partner in crime. But before that, before we get to the meeting and what came out of that, because you guys heard of the 20-point plan, it's been going around, the 20-point plan. But before that, I think it's important that we cover this part. This was Netanyahu before heading over here. Yet again, he had a walkout occur on the floor of the UN. Let's watch what happened there and then how the mainstream decided to cover it. Here we go.
In the hall.
Silence dans la salle.
Призываю всех к порядку.
That is the walkout that happened. It was pretty remarkable. That's the shot of the room after they left. There's Netanyahu, the war criminal, the crimes against humanity genocider, child killer, standing up there with as you guys can see, many blue seats, many blue seats with nobody in them. This is the official list that we know of that have walked out of that room. This is where we are. This is the sentiment of the globe right now. Every one of these countries said, F you, we don't want to have anything to do with this speech. This is great news. Obviously, it's not a shock. It's not a shock that the USA didn't walk out. Duh, we fund his entire operation. But let's look at a little clip of the speech he gave where he was pretending to talk to an entire room. You got to do a lot of acting when you get walked out on like that. You got to, and then this comes from a theater guy. Like if you don't have anybody in the seats, they tell you, you still have to pretend you got the people in the seats. You still got to pretend, right? And then we look out on these stages. We go, oh no, nobody came to see my play today. Oh, but hey, focus on the script, focus on the character. Well, he certainly did focus on the script, and he focused on the character, and he knew he had Western media outlets to back him up. So here's a clip of part of Netanyahu's performance.
Beepers, the pagers, we paged Hezbollah, and believe me, they got the message. And thousands of terrorists dropped to the ground.
What an amazing line. He just really hit that one out of the park, right? They got the message. Some would call that a threat. And of course, the close-up on the Israel soldiers or whoever, these military guys, ambassador guys in the audience, which are the only group of people that you can even get a cluster together, are representing Israel. But of course, Fox News does what they always do. And they tweeted this clip out and said, new cheers erupt at the UN as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recalls the country's pager operation against Hezbollah. He's not just recalling the pager operation. He's insinuating a threat. Remember those beepers, those pagers. We paged Hezbollah. In other words, you blew up their devices in their pants and you caused mass injury and death. And this was 2 civilians. We covered this. This was in Lebanon a few months back. So he's mocking it, laughing about it, and he's threatening it, insinuating that he'll do it again if people don't cooperate. The cheers came from his own people, and then Fox News decides to present to their audience that cheers erupted when there can't be any cheers when you have a theater that looks like this. And we wish that Fox was as honest, or at least half as honest, as a theater review would be for a local play that couldn't get anybody in attendance. And they're really nice sometimes. They can be really nice to local theater actors. They can say, oh, they did a great job, even though the audience was half full or a fourth full, or in this case, barely 10% full. So that's the kind of coverage that Netanyahu knows he's going to get. So he can fake his way the entire time. And yeah, that he knows he's got the backing. That's how it works. he gets the backing. Now, let's see what happens when Benjamin Netanyahu meets with Trump. And this is a nice little highlight of how our government works with the two of them. We know this script very well. But this is another indication that our foreign policy, our government, the way we run our foreign policy is done with religion first, which is actually completely against the Constitution, particularly the First Amendment. Netanyahu, or Satanyahu, is telling us that it's because what's written in the Bible that we can justify murdering and killing people and punishing people who don't agree with the gospel, which again is all about protecting Israel as the chosen ones that can do whatever the hell they want.
October 7th, Israel's enemies have learned a hard truth. Those who attack us pay a heavy price, but those who partner with us advance progress and security for their peoples. President Trump just said it. It's also in the Bible. It says, those who will bless you will be blessed, and those who will curse you will be cursed. And that's actually what is happening. We want the blessings. I think we've done a lot in the past 2 years to end the curse. We're not finished, but we've done a lot. And we've done a lot together to end the curse.
Wow. Wow. So again, this is, and you look at that audience. This is where he knows he's going to get a better audience. You got the little yarmulke hats on there in the bottom left. You guys see that? He knows he's going to get much better reception here. So he was fully looking forward to this opportunity. And now here's where the real scam comes into play, guys. Here's where the real scam. And this is where we have to hold our media really accountable at this point, because our media, as I know people like to say, oh, they really, especially CNN, they've really been on point covering Gaza and covering this conflict because it's so complicated. It's so complicated. They're giving Palestinians a chance to speak and then and talk about the journalists getting killed, and it really is upsetting. And I wish we just could have a two-state solution. Well, here again, this is where the media needs to do their job and step up and see. When you see a 20-point highlight like this, you got to ask questions. So these are the highlights from the 20-point plan, which Benjamin Netanyahu came here to get Trump to sign off on, which he was successful at doing. Here's some bullet points, and we're going to look at these and ask ourselves about the red flags in these bullet points. Here are the highlights. Gaza will be governed by a temporary technocrat government, and Israel will not annex the Strip. So basically, Israel will not continue to annihilate and murder Gazans temporarily while an outside entity comes in to run things. Okay, that doesn't sound very fair in the sense if you are in Palestine right now. Okay, so you won't be forced to leave, but the Strip will be rebuilt. You'll be pushed to leave. So that, it's called ethnic cleansing. That's always been in play. That's been in play the whole time. If the plan is accepted by both sides. Now, this is where it gets really sketchy. If the plan is accepted by both sides, the war will end immediately. What does that mean? Well, that means that you have to return all the hostages. Well, what are we talking about? There's like a handful that are even left, like 20. But Israel will also have to release a few. Oh, well, they're not called hostages, by the way. You guys can see that. Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners. Well, that's not fair to call them prisoners because they never got a trial. They were locked up like any hostages. When you call them hostages, why are you calling them prisoners? And 1,700 who were detained, again, hostages, not detainees, hostages, after October 7th. So never mind the thousands that were detained before that. That's not of concern. And of course, Western media doesn't want you to know that was initially the reason why you would want to revolt against an occupying force that has illegally stolen, taken, and captured, and murdered, and tortured, and raped your friends and families for no reason, with no accountability for years and years. And that's why you get to October 7th. It's a breaking point, is what it actually is. Okay, so anything else in here? Well, the military operations will be suspended for complete staged withdrawal of Israeli forces. Well, this is so questionable that Israel would ever follow these bullet points at all. Then they're promising to Hamas if they surrender, they will get amnesty, and then shipped out to another country. Okay, so they have to basically say we're not in charge anymore, and we have to trust you that you're not going to kill us or do something bad to us if we quote unquote surrender from our mission to try and have an actual state, which you are not allowing us to have. And our mission is to have the same rights that any people are, the self-determination of any people should have these rights. So then we end with the regional international forces will provide security. So again, an outside entity giving, don't worry, we're going to bring it in from the outside. And then, of course, the U.S., i.e. Trump, will be the facilitator of dialogue. Well, notice that there's nobody standing on that stage representing the other side. So how can we buy? How can the audience, right? The eating popcorn, the eating popcorn audience, that's us, right? Because we're glued to the TV. This is the story they're telling us. And we're supposed to buy that Trump is going to mediate between two parties, but we only have one party standing on that stage. And it's the one party that has been condemned as an internationally as a killer, a child killer, a war criminal, and yet he's still welcome in our country, not in anywhere else in the world. There's 4 countries that would even have him in at this point. We know even Canada said they will arrest him if he comes there, which is pretty interesting. That's just one example. With that, let's look at how The Hill covered this. I know you guys, when we do real fake news, we tend to pick on CNN, Fox, MSNBC a lot of the time. You guys know the drill. That's the mainstream outlets that are owned by the same people. That's how it works. The same billionaire class, and they're the Zionist-controlled media. Well, what about outlets like The Hill? Well, we're going to focus on this one because we saw this morning, and I think Robbie Stove has not been an honest player in this. So let's look at how he responds and why this type of dialogue on media, quote unquote, independent media outlets are so dangerous. And spoiler alert, The Hill is also owned by the billionaire class. So there you go. But let's look at their coverage on how to assess what we're seeing in real time.
Would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas, but I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace.
Okay, so just right off the bat, what he's saying in that clip, and Robbie Stove's going to respond to this clip, so get ready for his horrible response. But right off the bat, you guys should notice that when he says if they don't cooperate, in other words, if they're not forced into this, because we're forcing them into this is not a negotiation, then I will greenlight Netanyahu to finish the job. That means kill every last one of them. That's what he is saying. There's no other way to infer of what he's talking about. He's saying if they don't take this deal, they're dead. Period. End of story.
And if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do.
I mean, I simply don't know, but remain dubious of this proposition that Hamas is going to accept a deal in which they lose power, control over Gaza.
You got it right there, Robbie. That part you got right. It's dubious that they would accept a deal that doesn't give them anything. Yeah, you should also go a little further. Let's see if he goes further to connect the dots that the entire thing is a scam. Can we go that far, Robbie? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not holding my breath for this guy.
I wish that they would accept such a deal. That would be great. We need, I support a separate Palestinian state, government, etc., that is not run by Hamas. The Palestinian Authority, though they have many defects themselves, are certainly preferable, and that is the best case scenario. That seems fine by me. I'm glad President Trump is trying to arrive at this end. I'm glad Israel is on board for that. It was obviously correct of Netanyahu to apologize to Qatar for what happened there. It shouldn't have happened in the first place, but after it's done, what can you do but apologize and hopefully never do it again, although I certainly wouldn't put it past them. The point is we certainly need peace, but is Hamas going to agree to a peace that they lose control of Gaza? I don't foresee them really doing that. They seem to have a elaborate capacity for the destruction of their own people.
Here we go. Here's the propaganda. You got to get that in there, Robbie, don't you? That they just like the destruction. They love it. They love it because they've been using citizens as human shields, right, Robbie? That's been the reporting. That's been your honest take for the last 2 years. I get it. That's your assessment. Okay. But you are understanding that nobody would take a deal like this, right? And you understand that the reason you give a deal on the table like this is so they will reject it and then be looked at on the world stage by people like you and looked at as somebody who, hey, you had a chance to save your ass. Now we're going to annihilate you and we won't feel bad about it because you had a chance to take a shitty deal. So that's your honest take, Robbie. That's great. Do you have anything else to add?
Wholesale slaughter of the innocent people of Gaza, they don't care. So if they didn't care before, I don't know why they'd care. They don't even care as many of their own members are wiped off the earth. So I don't understand their motivation to just cling to power at all costs. It's a motivation of a terrorist group. Not a state actor, because usually state actors eventually surrender to stave off total destruction or total destruction of their people. See Imperial Japan or, whoever else. But that's not the case here.
Total dishonest journalism, not even journalism. That's complete propaganda. Don't fall for it. And he had said earlier in the clip, you guys heard right off the bat, he says, this should be, even though they're not getting any power, everybody wants a two-state solution. Well, no, they don't. And if you were an honest journalist, Robbie Stove, you would tell us and tell your viewers that Netanyahu does not want a two-state solution. He's very clear about that. You want to see him on Fox? Here's Fox. And then you're not going to believe what he says back in Israel in Hebrew. Check this out.
Trump has been an incredible ally of Israel, incredible friend. We've had no one like him. What he did in his first term, in recognizing Jerusalem as our capital, moving the American embassy there, recognizing our sovereignty over the Golan Heights, getting out of the disastrous Iran deal, and then, of course, now joining us in the effort to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons by taking out some of these nuclear sites with us. I think it's great. I read somewhere this ridiculous, this ridiculous slide. President Trump does what he does because he decides what's in America's best interest. And I've said this often, I don't decide a thing for President Trump. He is the most independent leader, an amazing leader that I've seen in all my years, and I think many people in the world see that.
Does this sound familiar, guys? Sounds exactly the same, kind of overdoing it. Methinks that, to borrow another Shakespeare line, methinks thou doth protest too much, just like with Charlie Kirk. Ridiculous accusations that I control Trump. Ridiculous accusations that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. They're just ridiculous. They're insane. And he just says those words over and over. Ridiculous, insane. And then he doubles down. He does it over and over and over again. No, we know he said this. Tucker Carlson reported he said this. Max Blumenthal reported he said this. We know he said this, that he controls Trump and the United States. We have footage of him back in the 80s, in the 90s. He says he controls Bill Clinton. He does this over and over and over again. But it's according to him. And of course, these non-journalists on Fox News who are nodding their head along and saying, oh, yeah, no, you're right. That does sound ridiculous. That does sound crazy. Keep going, sir. Keep going.
So the idea that I, in any ways that I boast that I control him, that's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
It's a lie. And I never, not only did I not say it, I don't think it. I think America is blessed with a very strong and independent leader.
Not only did I not say it, I don't even think it. Could you imagine a defendant, a suspect in a murder case saying, I didn't kill my wife, and you know what, Your Honor, I want the jury to hear this too. It's ridiculous to think I did it. I don't even think about it. When I'm up at night, I promise you, it's never crossed my mind to stick a knife into my wife's effing chest. Ever. Never crossed my mind. I want everybody to know that. It's just ridiculous. Let's see what actually my God, I'm sorry, Satanyahu. Let's see what he has to say in Hebrew, because that's when we really get the real Netanyahu comes through. This is what he really thinks about his successful trip to the U.S. and what he was able to accomplish with this total crap 20-point deal. It's an excellent visit, beginning at the UN, as well as the ending in Washington. This is my fourth visit to Washington since Trump took office. This is a historic visit. Instead of Hamas isolating us, we turned the tables and isolated Hamas. Ha ha! Now the entire world, including the Arab and Muslim world, is pressuring Hamas to accept the terms we set together with President Trump to release our hostages, both living and deceased, while the IDF remains in the most of the strip. Who would have believed this? After all, people constantly say you must accept Hamas's terms, get everyone out. The IDF should withdraw. Hamas can recover. And it can also rehabilitate the strip. No way that's not happening. On the contrary, and President Trump added that if Hamas refuses, he will give Israel full backing to complete the full annihilation of everybody. And that's what I think from every perspective. It was an excellent visit. And then he's asked, do you agree there should be a Palestinian state? Now, this is the key. This is the part that if journalism is missing this part, they're not journalists. He's telling you, he was just asked in Hebrew, sir, do you support the two-state solution? He's saying absolutely not. So what are we talking about? What have we been talking about? It's also not written in the agreement, but there is one thing we would say, that we would strongly oppose a Palestinian state. President Trump also said it. He said it. He understands it. Also, he said the UN would be a huge reward for terrorism and the danger to the state of Israel. And of course, we won't agree to it. There you go. That's the actual story. That's the actual story. Israel newspaper owned by the Adelson family. That's the $100 million given to Trump to get him on board with Iran tried to kill me. Vote for me. Iran tried to kill me crap, which the Adelson family came up with that line after they handed him $100 million after the ear incident. They're telling their readers, don't worry, Netanyahu won't abide by the deal anyway. Yep, immediately after lying to Trump and the Western world's face in English that he would support the peace deal, Netanyahu told his people in Israel that there would be no peace and no withdrawal. This is humiliating for Trump and America. Well, I disagree, Adam Media, because it's not humiliating as long as you have people like Robbie Stove doing propaganda pieces for their viewers who think that they're independent and that they're doing an honest discussion on both sides. So no, it's not going to be embarrassing at all. And that's that. And then to tie this story up, guys, one final bow on the story. Remember back in February at Netanyahu's last visit, and we were talking about the pagers. We talked about the we showed that Hezbollah. We showed them good. This is an actual gift that was presented to Trump in February. I'm not kidding you. This is an actual gift that he received. It says in the middle, if you guys can see it, press with both hands. And it's a golden pager. Is it a joke? Is it a threat? You decide. But ask yourself, is he really ridiculous? Is it really ridiculous to think that Trump might be being controlled by Netanyahu and our entire U.S. government and policy and every outlet, every single industry we have here might be compromised? Do you think it's that crazy of an idea? Well, that should do it for a real fake news update, not brought to you by Pfizer. Okay, let me take a moment to introduce you to our good friends over at World Harvest Food Bank right here in LA. World Harvest has been serving families across Los Angeles for 18 years now, and they started with this simple idea. Everyone deserves access to healthy, affordable food no matter what they're going through. With their Cart with a Heart program, families can walk away with a full cart of groceries, fresh produce, dairy, meat, and pantry supplies for just a $50 contribution. That's for the entire cart. That same cart would cost over $300 at a typical grocery store. At World Harvest, everyone is welcome. They don't ask for income verification, ID, or any paperwork. No. Basically, their doors are open to anyone who's doing their best, but just needs a little extra push to get by. If you're an Angelino like me, you know the times have been tough here. First with all the union strikes, the LA fires, and now the ICE raids going on. It seems like we're living in a constant state of uncertainty. And that's why it's so important to support local charities like World Harvest, because they aren't just helping the community. They're an essential function in its very survival. World Harvest is located at Venice and Arlington. And right now, you can use our special discount code THL20 for 20% off your contribution amount at checkout. And if you're not in the LA area, you can still help out with a $50 donation, which will provide a full cart of food for a family by going to worldharvestfoodbank.org or scan the QR code for more info. Or you can just spread the word. Follow them online. Let people know they're here for them, because at the end of the day, it's about providing choice, access, and relief without barriers. World Harvest Food Bank. End hunger now.